What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Joe Nissum, and this week we have an awesome episode for you. Now, if you're somebody who's sitting there and thinking, how do I actually take these mock exams? What do I do with them? How many do I take? How should I approach it? When should I do it? Today's episode is for you. Raman and I break down the entire structure of a mock exam, and we tell you guys exactly how to approach it, where you should take it, when you should take it, and probably one of the most misunderstood areas, which is how to actually review that mock exam so you could use it for your future studying and have it guide your study plan and your next mock exam. Now, as always, we have a couple special offers for you underneath this video. If you are interested in the Q Bank that we use in our class, we have a 7-day money back guarantee. Or you don't like it for whatever reason, send it back, no questions asked. If you are interested in chatting with me and seeing if any of our classes make sense for you, please go ahead and click on that assessment link. You and I will spend 30 or 40 minutes together discussing your individual situation and how we can potentially help. Now, as always, please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so we can keep bringing you videos just like this one. And let's make your next attempt your last. What's up, Raman?
What's going on? How you doing? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I'm at home today, which my normal office is not in the background. It's taken off on a flight in a few hours, so I want to stay at home today. But I had this thing on my mind that I wanted to get your take on and put on this podcast that I think is so monumentally important for our CFP students who are taking the November exam, and that is the mock exam.
Oh yeah, that's the fun. That's where people are looking at like, all right, I've been studying. I've been doing all this. Let's go ahead and take this test, take this mock exam and see where I stand.
So I think this is the most interesting psychology behind a mock exam, because there's a lot of times where I meet with and do assessments and I'll say, how many mocks did you do before you took the CFP? This is usually with a second time test taker. And they'll be like, none. I'm like, how? How did you not, like, how were you gauging your process? How were you tracking? And one student actually had the guts to say it. And I think I kind of ultimately knew it, but hearing him actually say it was really, he's like, I didn't have the guts to take the mock exam because I didn't really want to know where I stood.
Mm.
And I thought that was such an interesting thing. It's like being on a diet and not wanting to get on the scale. Like,
Yeah.
I want to know, but I don't want to know, because if it's bad, I don't want to know and it's going to mess with me. And I don't want to necessarily take that into the exam because there might be a chance that I pass. What do you think about that? It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I feel like a mock exam is a good indicator. A mock exam is a good indicator on where you currently stand with your study process. So if you're not, if you, like, how do you measure progress? That's the question, right? How do you measure progress of anything? Well, you have to create some sort of foundation and be able to evaluate your progress based on this foundation, right? Like, for example, if I have a client and I build a portfolio for that client, and I'm like, hey, let's just build a blah 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 portfolio with 40% equities and 60% fixed income. Well, how do we really know if that 40-60 portfolio actually did what it was supposed to be doing if I don't compare it to its benchmark, right? That's how I look at mock exams, is basically it allows us to measure our progress of studying and also be able to really understand, like, do we need to make any changes with our study
Yeah.
habit and our
Yeah.
process?
Yeah, I think it's like going to a client and say your portfolio is doing well without a performance number, period.
Right.
Right? I imagine we walk into a client into a meeting and they say, how's everything going? Oh, it's doing good. Really? Well, how well did we do this year? Great.
Yeah.
You did good. Keep it
Right.
up.
Or
And
in this case, you're saying, like, it's just kind of, hey, how did we do this? I don't know. I'm not. Well,
Can
why
you
not? Well, I don't
imagine?
want to look at it. I don't want to look at it because,
Mm.
I'm scared. You see how absurd that sounds?
It sounds absurd, but again, there's very little about emotions that are ever going to sound logical because it's emotions, right? And I think this speaks to something even more subtle, which is if I am studying, but I know I'm not really giving it my all, I don't want to measure my progress.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what it comes down to because I know things when I'm not paying attention or when I'm kind of doing it halfway, I don't want to ever look at it, right? Like if I know that I'm saving, but I'm spending too much, but my goal is I want to save $10,000 and I'm like, I put in $100 and then I take that $100 out because I spent too much on my credit. Well, of course I don't want to look at my bank account, right? Because I know that I've spent too much or I really haven't been putting in the effort. The same thing goes for a diet. I ate some candy when I shouldn't have been eating candy, and I know that's going to affect my weight, or I had too many slices of pizza or something. So I really don't want to measure my weight because I know I'm not giving it my all. And I think subtly, if I'm studying for the CFP and I'm studying on Monday, then Tuesday, and I don't study on Wednesday and I give it an hour on Thursday, of course I don't want to take a mock. I'm terrified of what the mock was actually going to show me because it's going to show that thing that I kind of deep down inside know that I'm not really ready.
Yeah.
And I
You know,
probably have
and
no business taking this test.
right. And then I'll even flip the script, Joe. There's those other people where they just take the mock and they just do so well at it, and now their confidence is boosted at a whole different level.
Hmm.
So there's also that other end of the spectrum as well, right? That we want to address. It's kind of like, oh, I took the mock and I did like so great on it. Or another end of the spectrum is, yeah, I kind of took the mock, but I took breaks and I was just kind of at work or I was at home. My kid was running around. That
I'm taking in my underwear.
I'm taking it. I'm on my bed, kind of like this one
Yeah.
person that we know, right? Just like
Right.
this, just doing everything in bed. It's just kind of like all these things. It's preparing you for the how the real exam is gonna be like.
Yeah. I mean, I had a student who told me he took a mock. He was like, yeah, but he's like, what? I got to 30 questions. I was feeling stressed out. And so I took a break. I was making a sandwich. I was like, you're standing at your toaster in the middle of a mock exam. He was like, yeah, what's the big deal? I was like, he didn't take it seriously. And
Yeah,
they're like, well, I did. I did it, but that's not taking it seriously. And I think if we draw the line from I didn't take any mocks to I took 6 mocks as the spectrum, I think most of us are going to be somewhere in the middle. Maybe I took a mock. Maybe I didn't really take it that seriously. I'm sitting and doing it at my kitchen table. Kids are screaming. I'm not really focused. Music is on. The TV is on. I'm getting up. I'm making something to eat in the middle of it. That's a version of it. There's people who take the mocks and they take and never review it and they just keep doing mocks over and over again. And we have every variety of student that there's a lot of mistakes that you can be making on your mock. But I think
yeah,
the one thing that we want to point out is here is the correct way to do a mock.
yeah.
There is a lot of wrong ways, but there's really truly only one or two right ways to do it. And so, and I think that it all starts with your approach to the mock, which is you have to take this mock seriously
Mhm.
and try to recreate exam conditions as best as you possibly can. We do this in our class where we tell everybody get out of your house. Do not do your mock exam in your comfort zone.
Right.
You're not, no matter how hard you try, no matter how think you're serious you're going to be, if I'm sitting in my desk, in my house, in the comfortable place where I can go and grab a snack or I can go to my restroom, I'm going to naturally behave differently than if I'm somewhere that's uncomfortable. The nerves
100%.
are going to sit in there. So I think the number one approach is go do it somewhere out of your house. You have plenty of options. Go to a co-working space, go to your library, go to your office. go to anywhere that's quiet that's going to recreate exam day. And I love a library because I think libraries are going to be best.
Yeah, because like when you're in a library, you gotta stay quiet. You can't just I think sitting in a library or even like a co-working space where you're just in a room, I think that will emulate the closest to actually being at a prometric testing center.
Yeah. And there's some noise in those testing centers, people banging on the keyboard, people are talking, you'll hear instructor, people are coming in, people are leaving. There is some noise. So, getting used to that, I'm out of my comfort. I don't get to control this
Right.
type of thing.
Yeah.
So that approach is first. What else do you think is important for a mock exam other than just approaching it like exam day?
Yeah. I would say don't necessarily try to focus on the score per se, like, oh, like I scored like, all this in reds, or I scored this percent, or I scored everything in green. I'm ready. Focus on the process. Like focus on like how the questions are being written, the length of the questions, right? How much time you're spending. Did you end up spending like 10 minutes on a question because you were frustrated? And then did you like how was your mood because you got punched in the face by five, six questions? How did you overcome that? And I feel like that process is so important because the way you feel right now with the mock exam and you truly try to bring that awareness, then you could correct some of those processes that you're implementing so you could be better during the exam day. So I said that would be my second approach is to focus on the process, not just focusing on the score of like, I did this or I did that.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing that and I think it's part of the beauty of taking the mock exam seriously is that you're ultimately going to figure out all of those little things that happen during a test that, well, what if I pick up my head, Raman, and I'm 45 minutes into the exam and I'm at question 16 because
Yeah.
I got absolutely rocked by a case study,
Yeah.
right? Imagine question one case study that's 8 paragraphs that you got to read through with balance sheets and income statements and buy sell agreements or a tax form, and now all of a sudden you're sitting there going, "What the literal fuck?" This is how we're starting the exam. 16 questions. I'm 45 minutes in. Now I have 2 hours and 15 minutes to answer 70 questions.
Yeah.
I got to move my ass. And I think that for every test taker, that's going to happen to you on one mark or another. And you got to learn how to get over that where you're going to go, okay, I got to set my boundaries on that. And I like something that you said a lot, which is how are things written? How am I interpreting? Am I doing too much? Am I doing too little? And
Yeah.
obviously you'll figure that out once you're actually sitting down and reviewing. We'll cover that in a minute. But I think that is your game plan, taking it seriously and then knowing what your game plan is, I think are absolutely critical to this day.
Right. Because you're going in already knowing, okay, this is the approach. This is what I'm expecting to do, right? Rather than just be like, oh, it's just a mock exam. Like, yeah, whatever.
Hmm.
You have an intention. You're going in with the purpose, saying, okay, you know what? I'm taking it like a real exam, and I'm going to focus on the process and truly evaluate how the questions are being written. Am I spending too much time on this thing? Or am I getting frustrated? How did I overcome some of my frustration? Was I too overconfident? Did I just read half of the answer choice and then moved on and selected the answer and moved on? Because
Hmm.
fact of the matter is people do that.
Yeah. And those are things that you can walk in, have all the knowledge in the world, and still fail
Hmm.
because you made silly errors on exam day.
Yeah.
And you got to work it out on mocks. You have to work it out on those mock exams. Okay. Now I take it seriously. I set up my game plan. I start figuring that out. Let's talk a little bit about the review of the mock exam because
Yeah.
I think this is the area that most people absolutely it's like get taking a lemon, cutting it in half, squeezing one side, taking the other half of the lemon and throwing it in the garbage.
Yeah.
And I think this is the part that as important as taking the exam is the review part is just as important. And I would say, however long it took you to take the exam, assume that the review should take you at least half of the time, if
Mhm.
not all of that time. So if it took me 2.5 hours, expect an hour for 15 to 2.5 hours to actually sit down and review the exam. How do you typically suggest that people sit down and actually review those mocks?
Yeah, and just to kind of point out there, when we say the mock exam, we're not just saying go take the CFP mock exam, right? We're just talking about taking a full sit down test and taking it
Yes.
seriously, right? So, getting that out of clarity, then reviewing it. So I'm a big believer of reviewing wrong answers and the questions that I guessed on. Sometimes
Mm,
we're gonna guess on a question like, oh, I got it right. Whew.
thank God.
Well, yeah, and you say like, thank God I got it right. Okay, you guessed the question on a practice exam and you got it right. You need to know why. You need to know why behind why you got that question right. What did you like? Oh, I was between A and C and I picked A. Okay, but now go back and see why A was correct and where's your
Mm,
limited gap in that knowledge base, right? Why are you getting these answers wrong? And I always categorize, I tell my students is you're going to categorize your answer on why you get it wrong. In category A is I just didn't know what the question said. I had no idea about the material.
mm,
Category two or category B is I knew what the question was asking me, but I misread my question. And then
mm.
I could throw in a category C. It was a combination of both, basically, if you want to put these three categories. And
Yeah.
then from there on, go on to dissecting further.
So, how are you typically doing this? Like, let's pretend you just personally took a mock exam and now you get your results and you're looking at it. How are you sitting down and breaking the mock exam? Are you going back to question one? Are you saying filter out all the wrong ones? What are you typically doing?
Yeah, great question. So as I'm taking a practice test or a mock exam, right? If I know that okay, question 45, I totally guessed on this, right? And I didn't mark it for review or I marked it for review, whatever. I want to at least like list out the questions that I know I guessed on so I could go back and look at it, see whether I got it right or wrong. Obviously, if
Mm,
I got it wrong, I can just look at all my wrong answers. That's a fact, right? That's I can easily do that. But it's most importantly, it's the questions that I guessed on that I got it right. I have to make sure I go back and review those. So out of like if I took a 150 question mock exam, I got 30 questions wrong, but then I know I guessed on 10 questions, and out of those 10 questions, I got four wrong. Obviously, I'm going to review those four wrong questions because that's part of the 30, but I also need to go back and review the six that I got right because I guessed on them.
mm. I like that. I like that. I mean, I do have a slightly different variation, and and you hear me say this when we're teaching even FINRA exams. I'm like, go back and audit the exam and start back at number one. I like to be really thorough with my review of a mock.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
and similar to you, the thing that I like to review my right answers for is it's kind of a good reiteration of the concept.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting it right, that's helping me build my confidence because I'm not sitting there wondering why I got something right. I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I actually got this right for the right reason. I was right. Good. Okay, glad I did that because now I can carry that confidence into my next week of studying and into the next mock." So I like to start back at number one, and I'm sitting there going, "Okay, I got one right. Right reason. Good. Number two, I got this right. Ooh, I guessed on this one. Let me see. Oh, I was close, but I wasn't. I need to make this adjustment. I got a little lucky on this one, right? And then I'll do the same thing with like the ones that I got wrong. I'm doing the same exactly. Why did I get this wrong? Ah, shit. I didn't see the except. I didn't see the must. I answered this question. They were asking this question and I answered this question. Which one of these is most accurate? And then I answered which one is false. I'm sitting there and kind of going through. And to your point that you said before, now I'm really getting familiar with the exam
Yeah.
of how things are being asked because, and I feel like you can never get that familiarity just taking tests. You really get that familiarity when you review the test.
Right.
You
100%.
just can't get it from taking more tests. And it's counterintuitive. If I take more tests, I'm going to get more familiar with it. No, if you break down the test is when you're going to get more familiar with it because you're like, I didn't read that sentence right. Come on. And what you're going to start to realize, I think, is there's probably 10 or 12 or 15 easy opportunities for you in the exam that you're sitting there going, well, I scored a 60, and here are 15 questions I could have gotten right. That takes me closer to a 70, maybe a 72. And now I'm in passing range here. Now I'm,
Yeah.
I'm above at least a 70, and that puts me somewhere close to passing this test. And I think that's going to be the real thing where you're going to find value is, I did really poor in general principles. Why? Because if you're misreading or going fast and you have an exam taking issue, not a content issue, you're never going to know why.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that up because thing is when you break down that test as you go back and review it, you start looking at your results on once again why you're getting the question wrong, whether it's the knowledge gap or whether you just misread stuff. And if it's knowledge gap, now you're starting to identify patterns and the domains that you need to go back and revisit,
Yeah.
right? Okay, I'm looking at the test, and then the way I would tell my students is like, as you're reviewing this test, write down which one of the domains is it? Is it GP? Is it insurance? Is it investments? Is it taxes? Or in some cases, it might be investments and tax, right? Because you got a
Mm,
blended question out of it, right? And then once you start doing that, you're going to start categorizing like, holy crap, I'm noticing a pattern. My
mm.
pattern shows that I am doing poorly in retirement plans and insurance. And there you go. Now you're starting to build the next momentum of your study plan, what you're going to do this coming up week.
Yeah. And I think even more so, I can start to drill down even further beyond insurance. Oh, it's not insurance planning that I stink at. I don't understand property insurance
Yeah.
or I don't understand P&C, and I got to go back and review my six parts of a homeowner's or my parts of an auto policy, what a split policy looks like, as opposed to a general liability policy. Those are the things that I think that most students are not doing when they're auditing because it's going to allow you to hyper. I got six qualified plan questions wrong. Okay, I got to go back and review qualified plans.
Yeah.
Now it allows me to be hyper focused on the things that I need to instead of going, I got 14 out of 29 on retirement. That stinks.
I like that.
What
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, what in retirement? It's such a huge topic. Are you struggling with the calculation? Is it qualified plans? Is it distribution rules? Is it IRAs? Is it non-qualified? We have 8 to 10 subtopics that exist in every core topic that where you could potentially struggle. So it's not as easy just to sit there and go, oh, retirement plans is my issue.
I think you're 100% right on that. I think a lot of people make that mistake where they're like, "Oh, I'm weak in retirement." It's like, okay, well, where in retirement? Is it the Social
Mm,
Security benefits? Is it the qualified plans, right? Or in insurance? Okay, are we talking more about cross purchase plans or business agreements versus disability policy versus long-term care? So yes, absolutely, go in and look at the subtopics of each domain that way, once again, identifying the pattern. It's all about, in a nutshell, basically, when you do your mock exam, right, understand why you're getting your questions wrong. That's a big thing. And then once you understand, okay, is it the knowledge gap or is it me just misreading stuff? If it's a knowledge gap, then now start identifying the subtopics you're doing badly in. That way you could go back and attack those topics. Would you agree that's
I
pretty much kind of like in a
That's
nutshell?
yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good summarization there is, when you got to take the exam seriously, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to figure out what your game plan is. And then that review is just as critical. Figure out why, okay? And then you can attack your weaknesses because again, we're too reliant on the technology now because anybody can look at the summary after and say, I got 14 out of 28 investment questions wrong. Okay, cool. That's a massive topic. Figure out and drill down because if you're not understanding the taxation of investment vehicles, go
Mm,
back and review the taxation of investment vehicles.
right.
If you're getting 4 disability questions wrong, your DI just screwed up all your insurance. And more often than not, you'll find that one or two areas of weakness inside of a subtopic is what ruins the entire subtopic,
Yeah, 100%,
right?
100%.
The exam goes heavy on DI, and I stink at DI, ruins my entire insurance score.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's great. And the thing is, once people start understanding how to use the mock exam to measure their progress, it can drastically improve their success of passing the CFP exam. Would
I
you agree
agree.
with that?
I agree. I mean, you saw it in our last class where we saw students improve from mock to mock to mock, where they improved. And we had most people did three, but some people did four.
Mhm.
And mainly because we used the first one as kind of a sit down and get used to taking 170 questions, but we knew it wasn't real exam level. But when we're sitting there and going through, we want to see that improvement. But the only way you're going to improve is the audit.
Yeah,
That way, that entire next week, they were laser focused on those things, and they had the opportunity the following week to showcase their ability to do it. And we saw this with multiple people where they're like, you would see it, and they were like above average in general principles, above average in insurance, investment and tax low, the rest of it high. And okay, well, let's dig down. Let's look at your investment. What's going on? You don't understand general characteristics. You couldn't tell me the difference between a T bond and a T bill.
hmm,
What a shame to lose points on that.
right,
Okay, go hyper focus on that for the week. Make sure that you're squaring that away. Come back the next mock exam, kill it. And it's not a very sophisticated process, but if you're simply depending on your performance tracker on your tech, it's not going to break it down for you unless you go back and audit it yourself.
right,
So take the initiative to go and audit it yourself and know why you're getting things wrong and where you need to focus. Because remember, the tech is so wonderful at showing you how long that you took on a practice question, what topics you're doing well in, what topics you're not doing well in. But it's ultimately your decision of how well you audit your questions to see whether you get it. And remember, it doesn't account for all the stuff that you guessed and got
right.
right? So only you can do that with a self audit because that's going to be the critical to your success on the next mock exam.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I think that's a good place to stop.
Hmm. Yeah,
All right. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to like and subscribe this channel. And in our next video, we're going to talk a little bit about CFP exam anxiety. This is one of the hardest things to get over. It's one of the most interesting topics that we talk about. So we hope you'll join us on our next episode and we'll chat about that. We'll see you guys next week. Take it easy.